Are you doing well this morning, Charles? You recovered from the deadline day madness?
Yeah, I'm very good, Ben. It was a mad day yesterday, wasn't it? So busy, not just at Arsenal, but everywhere. I think there's a lot of bleary eyes this morning. But yeah, I'm all good. How are you?
Yeah, exactly the same, bleary-eyed, but this is what we do. This is what we love
Yeah.
to do, and of course, we will talk a lot about the transfer deadline day madness shortly. But I want to start on the weekend's disappointment, the 1-0 loss to Liverpool. Arsenal's perfect record in the Premier League has gone, and it was quite a strange game to begin assessing. I think Arne Slot said at the end, 8 times out of 10 that ends as a 0-0. One time out of 10, Arsenal win. The other time, Liverpool win. And Liverpool did win. They've now got a 3-point lead over Arsenal at the top of the table. So, just first of all, I want to get your overriding emotion when the final whistle blew.
I mean, disappointment, obviously. It was a really disappointing way to lose a game so late on. I think a point would have been a great point. So yeah, it was just disappointment. There was definitely frustration as well. I think the way the game panned out, the way Arsenal played. The way Mikel set the team up as well, there was definitely frustration. I felt Arsenal could have done more in the game. I didn't buy into all the narrative that was being pushed on by Sky Sports and everyone like that. The whole that Arsenal didn't try to win. They absolutely tried to win, and Mikel put out a team that he thought could win. So there's no way they went there trying to play for a draw or anything like that. So I didn't buy into that narrative that, to be fair, it started about 2 or 3 days before the game even kicked off and continued to be pushed during the commentary. But I did feel like the starting 11 could have been different, and he did take the sort of the option that I thought he probably would. I always had that nagging doubt in the back of my mind that he would go with Marino, but I was really hoping that he was going to go down another route in the absence of Martin Odegaard, and I think that would have told us a lot about maybe his mindset this season and a little bit of a shift from what we've come to expect. So that was a little bit disappointing as well, but. In terms of the game, no one deserved to win that game. It just had 0-0 written all over it. But if you're gonna win a game like that, it'll take a moment of magic, and it was an absolute moment of magic. It was just a 1 in a million free kick, and when that happens, sometimes you've got to hold your hands up and say fair play, and that's all you could say for that because it was unbelievable from Szoboszlai.
Yeah, absolutely. One of those goals that you just have to say, yeah, you know what? If any goal is going to win a game, then that deserves to win that game. You just can't complain about a goal like that. Like you said, it was a complete moment of magic. And you mentioned there about how Arteta set his team up with the Marino starting over the likes of obviously Odegaard did come off the bench after his injury, but he went for Marino over Ethan Waneri. And like you said, there was a lot of criticism of his perceived, conservative tactics, but like we said, any other time Arsenal could nick a goal in that game. They don't concede to a wonder free kick. So, from what you're saying, you think that the criticism of Arteta and the way he set his team up went a bit too far?
I, I don't know if it went a bit too far because, like I said, I was disappointed in it, and I would have much rather have seen him take a different approach. I think the criticism that I had a problem with was the sort of accusation that Arsenal didn't try and win the game because I just don't believe that, and that Arteta sent out a team not, to get a draw. I just don't believe that for a second. While I was a bit disappointed about Marino playing. Mikel looks at Marino as an attacking option. He didn't look at him as a defensive option. He sees him as an attacking option, someone who can score goals and help Arsenal win the game. Um, so that was my main issue with some of the criticism that it was just labelled that Arsenal didn't try and win it. I just don't believe that. If you label that at Arsenal, then you have to label it at Liverpool as well. Because if Arsenal didn't try and win the game, then nor did Liverpool either. Because Arsenal, I think, had more shots. They made more passes into the final third. They had more touches in the opposition box, and they were away from home without Bukayo Saka, without Martin Odegaard. They lost William Saliba after 5 minutes. There's no Kai Havertz in the team. So I don't really see how you can say Arsenal didn't try and win it or they played for a draw. I don't think they did that. They played to try and win the game. Ultimately, they didn't. They're playing the champions away from home, the best team in the country, in my opinion. So that was where my main issue with the criticism was. But I think the criticism over the starting 11 and the approach, I think in terms of who started, I think that was fair. I would have much rather seen him go down a different route.
Yeah, I think when we saw Marino in the first 11, we thought, okay, he's playing it safe. But like you said, we've seen last season, Marino can score goals and he will score goals. And there was the argument that, of course, Liverpool have been so or had been so vulnerable defensively in their first two games, but then they did defend very well on Sunday. Arsenal's set pieces, it didn't help that Bukayo Saka was absent, so we didn't have those in swings with the left boot. But then again, they defended their set pieces very well. And I want to touch on Arsenal's sort of approach to the set pieces, if you like. I mean, more in the sense that Declan Rice was always sort of ambling over to the corner flag. They were in no rush. It's the same with it's like David Raya punting those free kicks long, sending everyone upfield. The crowd gets really riled up. Arsenal do take their time over that. And then the sense of urgency was only really in the last 10 minutes after Szoboszlai scored. It was too late at that point. So even as an Arsenal fan, seeing, just Rice wander over to those corners Arsenal takes so long to restart the game, does it grind your gears at all?
Sometimes it does. I didn't at the weekend, I have to say. I mean, Arsenal weren't playing at Anfield. It's like you don't. I think sometimes you need to take your time a little bit and try and suck the energy out of the crowd at Anfield. So sometimes it does, especially over throw-ins. It can frustrate me at times. Not so much at corners because a lot goes on at corners when it comes to Arsenal and they got put a lot of things in place. So it wasn't really overly bothering me that I have to say. You do what you do to try and get a result at a place like Anfield, a ground that Arsenal are terrible at. So no, I wasn't overly bothered by that. You're right about the corners. It's frustrating that they were always outswingers. I think that says a lot about where Arsenal's threat was coming from. There was just no real threat down that left-hand side. Gabriel Martinelli was really struggling and he wasn't able to win his corners. Whereas on the other side, Madueke was corners and Kirk has plenty of problems and won Arsenal a lot of corners from that the way he was running at him and attacking him. Had it been, Arsenal had 6 or 7 from the Declan Rice could have swung in with his right foot, then I think they'd have put a lot more pressure on Liverpool than they did. So that was a bit of a shame.
Yeah, it certainly was. And on that right-hand side as well, as we thought, Madueke did start over Bukayo Saka, and then Max Dowman came on again. There were no minutes at all for Ethan Nwaneri, and I know that his future, Arsenal see him as this more central player moving forward, but we've seen last season he can do some damage on the right-hand side. And, bringing on a 15-year-old when you're 4-0 up at home to Leeds, that's one thing. But when you're 1-0 down to the champions away from home, that's something else. And, Dowman did struggle as expected, didn't have much time to make an impact. Did it firstly surprise you that Nwaneri got no minutes, and secondly that Dowman was selected ahead of Nwaneri?
It certainly surprised me that he came on for Madueke. I just thought, well, what's the point in that? 1-0 down, just leave Madueke on the pitch. Fine, throw Downman on, but keep Madueke on the pitch. The like for like substitution. I thought, well, I don't really see the point in that. And yeah, I imagine Ethan Nwaneri sitting on the bench wasn't too happy seeing a 15-year-old given some minutes ahead of him. But like you said, I think Arsenal are making a concerted effort this season that Ethan's going to play his minutes centrally rather than on the right hand side. So I think that probably came into the equation. And I also just think that Max Dowman is he's just here to stay. I think we've got to accept and enjoy the fact that I think we're just going to see an awful lot of Max Dowman and Arteta's going to trust him in big games and massive stadiums. At Anfield 1-0 down, he throws on a 15-year-old kid. That says an awful lot about how he views him for this season. I just think he is a squad member now. Take the age out of the equation. I think he's a big, big option on that right-hand side. I'm going to see an awful lot of him. So yeah, but I was a little bit surprised. But my main surprise was that he took Madueke off. I just thought, and this is again the substitutions as a whole, when he brought Odegaard and Eze on, it just felt 10 minutes too late. I think everyone watching that as he got to the hour mark was just like, oh, he needs to change this. For the first time in the whole game, it looked like Liverpool were beginning to get on top. They weren't causing Arsenal any problems, but they were beginning to get on top. And he just felt, come on, make some changes here. And he waited until 70 minutes. Like he could have done that 10 minutes earlier and tried to sort of seize control back of the game and really hurt them. And then when he took Madueke off, he just like, do you need to do that? Just take a defender off at that point. If you lose 2-0, fine. You've only got a couple of minutes to go, but you could take a defender off. You could leave Madueke on, chuck Dowman on, just try and cause more chaos around that penalty area and try and force the equaliser. So I think that all added into my frustration a little bit of how Arteta maybe approached the game.